You can spend a day completely alone and feel perfectly fine. Maybe you even love it. The quiet, the space, no one asking anything of you. But that is not the kind of alone we're talking about. Imagine the days stretch into weeks, no conversations, no faces, no voices but your own, just you and the silence and time. Push a human being far enough into that, and something begins to happen to the mind that no amount of willpower can stop. Something that reveals a hidden truth about what you actually are. Most people think of loneliness as a feeling, a sad mood, something soft and emotional that you should just be able to shake off. But that's not quite right, and the truth is far more physical and far more alarming than a mood. Because loneliness is not really an emotion at all. It is an alarm, a biological warning system as real and as urgent as hunger or thirst. And when it goes unanswered for too long, it does not just make you sad. It begins to take your mind and your body apart. To understand why, you have to understand what kind of creature you are. For hundreds of thousands of years, your ancestors survived in one way and one way only, together, in a group. A lone human on the ancient savanna was a dead human. No one to watch for predators while you slept. No one to share food, to help you when you were sick, to raise your children. To be cast out of the group was quite literally a death sentence. So evolution did something clever and merciless. It made isolation hurt. The psychologist John Cacioppo spent his career studying this, and he argued that loneliness is your body's version of physical pain. Just as pain tells you to pull your hand away from a fire, loneliness is a signal screaming at you to reconnect, to get back to the group, because being alone means being in danger. That gnawing ache you feel when you're truly isolated is not weakness. It is the same ancient system that kept your ancestors alive, doing exactly what it was built to do, punishing you for being alone so that you would go and fix it. But what happens when you can't fix it? When the isolation goes on and on? That is where things get genuinely frightening, and we know because we have seen it again and again in the most extreme places humans end up. Consider solitary confinement. Prisoners locked alone in a small cell for weeks, months, sometimes years, with almost no human contact. You might think the worst part is boredom. It is not. The psychiatrist Stuart Gracian studied people held in this way and documented a pattern so consistent it has a name. Under extreme isolation, the mind begins to break down in specific, predictable ways. People develop crushing anxiety and paranoia. They lose the ability to concentrate or think clearly. Their sense of time dissolves. And many of them, people with no history of mental illness at all, begin to hallucinate. They hear voices. They see things that are not there. This is not people being weak. This is what the human brain does when you starve it of other people for long enough. It is as reliable as what happens to a body starved of food. Take time itself. In the 1960s, a young scientist named Michel Siffre sealed himself alone in a dark cave for months, with no clock, no sunlight, no sign of day or night. When he finally emerged, he was stunned. His sense of time had completely unraveled. He believed far fewer days had passed than really had. Cut off from other people and the rhythm of the world, his own mind had quietly lost its grip on time. And it doesn't take months. In gentler experiments, volunteers were placed in quiet, featureless isolation rooms for just a day or two. Many couldn't last. Deprived of other people and normal stimulation, ordinary healthy students began to feel anxious and confused, and some started to hallucinate within a single day. The mind starts reaching for something, anything, to hold on to almost immediately. And it isn't only prisoners and volunteers. Explorers alone in the polar dark, sailors alone at sea, hostages held in isolation, all report versions of the same thing. When the mind is deprived of other minds, it starts to come apart at the seams. There is one part of this that is stranger and more haunting than all the rest. When people are pushed to the absolute edge of isolation and survival, alone in the mountains, lost at sea, trekking across the ice, many of them report the same impossible experience. They begin to feel a presence, the unmistakable sense that someone else is there with them, walking beside them, guiding them, keeping them calm. There is no one there, but the feeling is completely real to them. It has been reported so many times by so many explorers and survivors that it has a name, the third man fact. The polar explorer Ernest Shackleton felt it, crossing the frozen mountains at the end of his crew's impossible survival. He became convinced that a fourth person walked with their party of three. There was no one there. Climbers near the death zone of Everest have described the very same unseen companion at their side. At the absolute edge of what a human can endure alone, the brain sends help, even if it has to build that help out of thin air. Think about what that means. Pushed far enough into loneliness, the brain, desperate for the company it evolved to need, will simply manufacture a companion out of nothing. It would rather invent a person than let you face the void alone. That is how deeply the need for others is wired into you. And while your mind is unraveling, your body is under attack too.
Chronic loneliness is not just unpleasant, it is measurably toxic.
When you are isolated for long stretches, your body stays locked in a low-grade state of stress. Your levels of the stress hormone cortisol rise. Inflammation increases, your blood pressure climbs. Your sleep gets worse. Over time, this quietly wears the body down. The numbers on this are genuinely shocking. A large review of the research, led by the scientist Julianne Holt-Lunstad, found that chronic loneliness and social isolation raise your risk of early death by an amount comparable to smoking around 15 cigarettes a day. Being deeply, persistently alone is roughly as dangerous to your body as a serious smoking habit. Let that sink in. Loneliness does not just feel bad. On a long enough timeline, it can kill you as surely as a physical illness. Because to a species built entirely for connection, being cut off from other people is not a lifestyle, it is a slow emergency. So here is the part that changes everything. You are not designed to be alone. Being social is not a personality trait or a preference or something only extroverts need. It is a biological requirement wired into you as deeply as the need for food, water, and sleep. When you are alone too long, you are not failing to cope. You are running out of a nutrient your brain cannot manufacture on its own. And left without it for long enough, your mind will distort reality, invent companions, and warp your sense of time, while your body silently turns the stress inward and begins to break down. Loneliness, in the end, is your oldest survival system screaming that one of your most basic needs is going unmet. It is not a flaw in you. It is proof of how profoundly you were built for each other. And here is why this matters more now than at almost any point in history. We are living through something our ancestors never could have imagined. More people live physically alone today than ever before. We work from home, order everything to our doors, and replace face-to-face contact with glowing screens. We are, in the most literal sense, the most physically isolated generation of humans who have ever lived. And so all around us, in quiet apartments and empty rooms, that ancient alarm is ringing. Millions of people feel a deep, aching wrongness they can't explain and blame themselves for it, never realizing that their body is simply doing what it was built to do, sounding the alarm that they have been alone too long. So the next time you spend a stretch of days without really seeing anyone, and you notice a strange heaviness creeping in, a restlessness, a low sadness you can't quite name, don't dismiss it and don't be ashamed of it. That feeling is not a weakness. It is the oldest and wisest part of you, the part that kept your ancestors alive for 1,000,000 years, tapping you on the shoulder and telling you a simple ancient truth. You were never meant to do this alone.